Hi there. Welcome to the Sober Circle channel. Enjoy this speaker tape.
Thank Tom, the committee, for inviting me down here to share with you out here in Oregon. I've never been here before. I'm from a small town outside of Annapolis, Maryland, called Serenity Park. I used to live in Glen Burnie. And it's just absolutely beautiful flying into this area, flying in over the mountains and coming down and landing. And I was thinking about when I came to AA, I heard someone say one time that, the alcohol gave me wings to fly and then it took the sky away from me. And I got thinking about that flying in here. I don't know about you guys, but it's hot up here. I'm going to get comfortable. Alan, you guys can take your jackets off. You girls can do what you want to do. Easy does it. Let's get comfortable. Try to keep it to an hour. But I really have enjoyed being here, enjoyed going to a couple of meetings and catching Tom this afternoon. And I guess I should let you know my name is Stu Bramwell. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Stu. And I guess through the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous, a lot of help from a lot of people, a lot of good sponsorship. I haven't found it necessary to take a drink of any kind of alcohol or use any kind of mood or mind-altering drugs since March the 12th, 1966. And for that, I'm very grateful. I'm 49 years of age, so I'm in my 25th year of sobriety. I'll be 50 this month. Nifty to be 50, I guess. 40 was hell, but 50 seems to be coming along okay. I sort of flipped out when I turned 40, created a lot of mistakes. I'll share with them later. But a lot of people get in the 40s and never have a problem. I got 39 to 40 and I just went crazy, and we'll talk about that later. So 50 should be a breeze. I hope so anyway. Anyway, unlike Ernie, I got here late by his standards. He got to Alcoholics Anonymous at the age of 19, and I didn't get to Alcoholics Anonymous until I was 23 years of age. And I screwed around with this program for about 2 years before I finally had my last drink. And I got sober. I was 25 years of age. So almost half of my entire life has been sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I found there's a big difference between being around AA and being in AA. It's a big difference. And I came around AA and I never got sober. I got in AA and I got sober. A good comparison is if a lot of you stay in these motels or even at your home tonight, you can go home and you can pull your bed out in the middle of the floor and you can walk around that bed all night long. You can get in there and smell it. You can touch it, stand back and look at it, but it don't mean nothing until you get in it. And AA is the same thing. You can come around here till you're blue in the face. You can come around these meetings. A friend of mine said just coming around AA and sitting in these chairs waiting to get sober is like going home tonight and sitting in a garage and waiting to turn to a car. Okay? It just ain't going to happen. You're going to have to take some action. Action's the magic word. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous has been the best thing that's happened to me in my entire life. I'm convinced I would not be alive today if it had not been for Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's so neat to stand up and look out and see so many young people. When I came to AA like Ernie, somebody young when I came in was 42, 45 years of age. Younger than I am now anyway. And I used to look at them and say, my God, I got that old, I'd stop drinking too. I mean, I'm in my early 20s. And I got sober, and what was neat about it, my first year in sobriety was in 1966 when I got sober. I went to New York with 4 other guys, and we went to Bill Wilson's anniversary. And I didn't know no more understand about Alcoholics Anonymous or Bill Wilson. I didn't know anything except he was a co-founder of AA. But they said, you go there, and it's his anniversary. You'll get a chance to meet him and hear about the story and the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. The man's getting old. He's not going to live that much longer. And you get a chance to shake his hand and thank him for letting God use him as an instrument to find a program that saved your life. And I didn't realize what kind of an opportunity that was being granted to me. And I went. And I had the privilege to go back 3 more years before Bill died, his anniversary. Every year I'd drive up to New York or catch a train in New York and go to his anniversary. So I went to 4 of his anniversaries. And while you're there, you had a chance to meet him and meet Lois and shake his hand and say a few words. And he always had an out-of-towners meetings for us to people visiting out of town to talk to us. And when I shook his hand, and thanked him. He didn't say, well, go home and work your fourth and fifth step, or all he said was, pass it on. You've been given a gift. It's a very precious gift. You abuse it, you'll lose it. You've been given a gift. You want to keep it, you got to give it away. Doesn't say anybody's got to accept it. Doesn't say anyone has to receive it. It says you have to give it. Pass it on. You've been given a gift. You can do something that the Pope can't do, the President can't do, a lot of people can't do. You can help another drunk. I was in AA almost 1 week. I was at a meeting. My sponsor's there. A new man walks through the door. My sponsor said, go talk to the new man. I said, what am I going to tell him? I've only got 7 days. You got 2 years. You go talk to him. He said, he doesn't have 7 days. He doesn't have 7 days. Tell him about your 7 days. He might identify more with your 7 days than he does my 2 years. He said, Bill Wilson didn't wait 2 years before he went to talk to Dr. Bob, did he? He said, go talk to him. And I've been trying to pass it on ever since. I find the more I give, the more I receive. I receive tenfold. I get back so much more than I ever give to Alcoholics Anonymous. So it's neat seeing the young people. So when I was in New York, I met a bunch of young guys from Boston. And he said, do you have a young people's meeting in your area? Now, I'm not really caught up with a lot of special interest type groups in AA today. I just don't think there's a need for a young people's meeting sometime because of so many young people. I'll give you an example. I came in, I got sober, and all the old-timers would get a young guy in the early 20s, they'd dump him on me. They say, he can relate to you, you take him to meetings. And I would take these young guys to meetings, and they say, where's all the other young guys at? I said, they're over to Dundalk route Tuesday night. We'll go there Tuesday night. I'll show you some young guys in Dundalk. There was no young guys in Dundalk. I'm just trying to buy them some time. It's not lying, it's called romancing the truth a little. Okay? And we go to Dundalk, and they wouldn't be in Dundalk. And they said, well, where are they at? I said, they must be in Annapolis Merlin Group. Friday night step meeting in Annapolis, I'll bet you that's where they're at. Just trying to buy them a little time, hoping they could just stay long enough to get a little foundation down, get a little hope that they can keep coming back. And a lot of them would leave. Now, what's fascinating, because they'd go to meetings, and they'd say, all I see is a bunch of old guys. I said, well, I know they're around. So now what happens 22, 23, 24 years later, I work with a lot of old guys. I'm taking some guys to meeting sometime. I got a friend of mine I sponsored. He came to AA, 67 years of age. He's got 6 years of sobriety next week. I took him to his first meeting. He said, where the hell's all the old people? All I see is young people at these meetings. I said, they're in Dundalk. You got to go to Dundalk. So it is fascinating watching Alcoholics Anonymous, change. When I came in AA, first of all, to look at my background, my history, and what's so neat about coming and sharing these conferences, and we were talking about it at lunch, I'm surrounded this weekend speaking with some fantastic speakers in Alcoholics Anonymous. And also, I think you're going to have one of the best Al-9 speakers you ever want to hear at this conference this weekend with Virginia. I've known Virginia a long time. She's black belt Al-9, so watch out. And it's a privilege that you can come here and you can feel comfortable to the point that you can share. And no matter how bad you louse this thing up, either somebody before your eyes is going to straighten it all right back out. So it feels neat to be able to come here and just share. We were talking about the meeting, before the meeting. See, there's 3 types of talks you give in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's the one that you plan on giving when you're sitting in that chair. And there's the one you give when you're standing up here, and then there's the one you wish you would have gave when you sat back down. So you just sort of like you have to cheat. I was telling one of the guys you have to cheat when you speak. You just say a prayer and go with it and see what comes out. I'm here because somebody needs to hear something I've got to say, and I'm also here because there's somebody's going to say something this weekend I need to hear from me. I talk a little fast, and that comes from when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had like a speech impediment, and I had a stutter and a lisp to me. And I found out that by just talking fast, it doesn't happen. But my sponsor said, you're not an Alcoholics Anonymous to be a public speaker anyway. You're here to be sober. They didn't invite you because you're a public speaker. They invited you because you're a public drunk. So you just go there and share. It's a message of the heart. Anyway, I came from a family of 1 of 7 kids. I'm the middle child. I had a lady one night tell me, she said, you came from a dysfunctional family. I said, my family wasn't dysfunctional. I come along. I said, not only was my family dysfunctional, that's the name they use in treatment nowadays a lot, dysfunctional. I said, my whole neighborhood was dysfunctional. Even the damn cats and dogs and birds are dysfunctional in my neighborhood. Most important thing is I'm sober. It doesn't matter what all that stuff is out there, because, see, we always look for the answer out there. As long as I can blame someone out there, I don't have to look in here. As long as I can blame Mommy and Daddy and everybody else, I don't have to look at me. AA says, look at yourself. The 12 steps is self-surgery on you. It's for you to change. But I was the middle child of 7 kids. My father's 78 years of age, still living. My mother's 73 years of age. I've never seen my mother take a drink of any kind of alcohol in my entire life. I've seen my father take maybe half a dozen drinks in his whole life. I never forget when I got, we give these medallions out in my area when you get certain lengths of sobriety. And I remember when I got my 20-year chip, it was a big deal. And I took it down, I said, look at that, Dad. I said, 20 years in AA without a drink. He said, big deal, your mother's been 69 years without a drink. She ain't got a chip, you know? He said, come on back in 49 years, we'll talk about it. I've never seen I've yet to see any of my brothers and sisters in trouble drinking to this day. There's no alcoholism or drug addiction in my whole family. I've got 2 children. I've got a son who's going to be 32 years of age in July. I got a daughter almost 28. And I got 4 grandchildren from 14 to 7. I don't see no alcoholism or drug addiction in none of their lives, up to now. So I don't know whether I try to make up for the whole damn family or what happened. But I took to drinking like a duck takes the water. I loved it. It saddens me to go to meetings when I hear people say I drank for 30 years, it was hell for 30 years. I had a lot of fun with drinking in the beginning. To me, drinking was the answer for all the problems. Drinking, to me, made me look at the world through rose-colored glasses. And it was more pleasant and easier to deal with when I was drinking. I became a daily drinker by the time I was 15 years of age. Now, this is in a family where there's no drinking. Middle-class family. Now, you guys talk about, and gals talk about hiding the bottle. You try to hide a 15-year-old drunk in your house one time. And that's what my parents try and do with me. Got married when I was 17 years of age. Most people don't get married when they're 17 unless 1 or 2 reasons. You're crazy or pregnant. And we're a little bit of both. I got married in April, had a son born in July. 3 months later, he's born 6 months premature, weighed 8 pounds. And I used that excuse to drink. If you got married when you were 17, you drink too. Got bounced out of high school, didn't get a high school education. Got sober, went back and got a GED. Got booted out of high school. And the very first time I drank, I got drunk. First time I drank. I was going to a party with some older guys sitting in the back of a 1949 Mercury. And we're going to a party. And they put me in the back because I was the smallest guy in the car. I couldn't wait till I could sit in that front seat. And put my arm out the window and lay it on that window and make it look like you got a muscle. You know what I mean? And talk to the girls, try to pick them up and all. And we're going to this party, and they put 2 bottles of Madeira port wine in the back seat with me. Now, I'll tell you what, I don't know how much my first Pepsi-Cola or Coca-Cola cost me, but I'll tell you what, that first bottle of Madeira port wine cost 72 cents. Now, that's a long time ago. But I got more out of that 72-cent bottle of wine than I ever got out of Kool-Aid or Pepsi-Cola or iced tea or anything I ever drank. That baby did the trick. I felt like a weird, mixed-up. I listened to our Thursday night speaker, and he was telling about being a weird, mixed-up kid before he even started drinking. I was the same way. I was a sitting duck for booze. Had been this era of time, it would have been drugs. It would have been something. But for me, back in those days, there was no drugs. There was a lot of booze. Let's face it, drugs would kill you. See? So we drank alcohol. So anyway, I got drunk. Made a fool out of myself. I said things I couldn't remember saying they told me about. I got sick at the party. I leaned down a second-story window to throw up. I fell out the window. Luckily, I didn't get killed. I fell on a big pile of gravel down underneath the window. I messed myself. I had a blackout. And yet, you know what? There's something in that bottle that I never found in life. To me, life was sort of like painful. I lived in a fantasy world. I was always living in a world of make-believe. And life had a lot of sharp corners to it. I always felt like I wasn't wanted in the house. When I was a little kid, I used to jump off a porch and pretend I was committing suicide when I was like 10, 11 years old, or 8 years old. I'd jump off a porch like I was committing suicide, and they'd find me, oh, he was a nice little boy and all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, I was weird before I started drinking. I mean, I'd get in debates with my teachers. They were teaching me that point about Humpty Dumpty falling off the wall. I was still convinced he got shoved, you know? And I would debate things like that with my teacher. I would constantly just be a little bit crazy. So I was a sitting duck for alcohol. And so the first time I drank, I got drunk. And I went back, and what I drank after that, I found something in the bottle I couldn't find in life. I felt like I was never wanted, I was never needed, I wasn't loved, I didn't fit in. I'm the kind of kid, I'd be standing on the corner, you came up, I felt like I was standing in your space. And I'd excuse myself, I'm sorry, this must be your place. I never felt, if I got on a bus and all the seats were empty, and I sat down and you got on, I swore I was sitting in your seat. I just felt different. And when I started drinking, all those feelings sort of disappeared. In fact, what happened was, from a guy who felt inferior, now I felt superior. From a guy who was a worrywart, I developed the attitude to hell with it. Hey, he's talking about live one day at a time. That's how I drank one day at a time. Let it all hang out. I believed those ads I used to read. I'd open up a Playboy magazine, and I see a guy standing there with his foot up on a sports car bumper, have two nice-looking girls on his arms drinking Smirnoff, and I'm thinking, damn, I drank Smirnoff, that'll happen to me. It never happened to me. We had a Hamm's beer advertising back in our area. It's called the Land of Pleasant Living. And they showed this advertising on television of this beautiful boat getting all loaded up with beer. And they had a band getting on there, and everybody had little cute clothes on, and everybody's pretty and happy and laughing and drinking. My sponsor said, y'all showed a damn boat coming back after the party on the weekend. Somebody's hanging over the side puking. Somebody's punched a drummer out. But I believed that kind of, I thought I could find something magic out there in the world that I couldn't find in life. And it worked for me. I drank for effect. I drank because it made me feel good. It let a lion out of a cage. It gave me the courage I was always lacking. I'm the kind of kid who would go to high school and I'd see like Sally Sturgis out there dancing. God, I want to dance with her. But I was afraid I'd step on her toes and everybody would make fun of me. I was a wallfly. My teacher said, if you don't come up front of the class and give your report, I'll fail you. And I'd say, fail me. I couldn't stand in front of people and speak. Always so self-conscious. You put booze in me, and it's a different story. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. Complete personality change. A says, you want to see someone getting sober, look for profound change in personality. There's more to recovery than just not drinking. Look for that change in personality. The same person will drink again. So we need to go through a personality change. And so I started drinking, and I became a daily drinker. Till I was 15. I didn't get drunk every day, but I drank every day. I had a lot of booze available to me through business. My father owned a big business, and he got a lot of booze for Christmas, but he would never drink it. He just stored up, and I started getting in there and digging in the back of it and working it out of there. And the next thing you know, they did want to drink one night, and hell, it was all gone. Yeah. And the kid I went to school with, he had his parents owned a tavern or a bar, and we used to go and take a bottle out of each case, and that way we had like a case of different kinds of beer just to drink. I would drink anything. And you know, it's amazing how, you know what's another thing it's neat? We lie about our drinking. When I first started drinking, it didn't take much to get me drunk. It didn't matter what I was drinking, but say even if I was drinking beer. In the beginning, I could get a buzz on 3 or 4 beers. I'd go to a party, get a buzz on, somebody say, God, you drank a lot Friday night. How much you drank? I said, drank a case. I would impress the school kids how much I could drink. I couldn't throw a touchdown pass. I couldn't kick a field goal, but I could drink. And I lied to them. They said, God, you were drunk. How much did you drink? I said, I drank a whole case of beer. Well, 10 years later, I drank a case of beer. My wife says, how much did you drink last night? I said, 3 or 4. No. We lie going in, we lie coming out. We never lie about how many mashed potatoes we ate or how many string beans we ate, how many hard-boiled eggs we ate. Well, we start lying about booze. And then my thinking was always thinking toward drinking. I can name you every beer joint, every bar, from where I worked or wherever I was at to my house. I could tell you the barmaid's name. I could tell you songs on the jukebox. I could tell you whether the shuffleboard was fast, how the pool tables were, the dart boards, the dance floor, what they had on tap. But I couldn't name you none of the drugstores and donut shops. Or my thinking was always drinking. So I got drinking. I'm one of these guys who gets drinking. I get taillights in my eyes. I start traveling. And when you travel, you wreck cars. You can usually go to a new meeting and see a new man's car right at the meeting. It's usually got banged in fenders or something. Because I'd come out of a bar late at night and the windows be all steamed up or milk, you know, the water be on there. And you ain't got time to clean your windows off. And you just get in and start up and just back up. Bang! Hope you don't hit something. Or you misjudge and you miscalculate and you cut a corner too sharp or too wide. And usually guys get sober, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, their cars look pretty nice. They don't bang them all up like we used to. But I had a lot of serious auto accidents. I mean, I totaled like 3 different cars before I was 21 years of age. I left the highway one night drunk, left the highway, went up an embankment, hit a tree, rolled the car down the embankment, got my ribs broken, concussion, my face got cut where it hit the mirror. I ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks. I was 17 years of age. A doctor comes in, she says, "You should never drink. You're different. You never should drink," she says. "You're different." I could not believe your alcohol content. She says, "You're different. You should never drink." I drank the day I got out of hospital. I always drank. You know why? I would always rationalize and justify. I hit a telephone pole one night. I wrapped my car around a telephone pole. I left a bar called the Sunset Lounge. I was heading for a club called the Rhapsody Club. A lot of action. I loved a lot of action. Wasn't no action out there. I tried to make some action, but I want something to happen. Talk about the insanity. Where do these people spend their money to get sick? You know, most people spend their money to get well. And I was going to this bar, hitting from one bar to another. I passed out at the steering wheel, and the car went into a spin and wrapped around a telephone pole, and luckily nobody was coming to an intersection and got killed. I ended up in the hospital with that one, too. And I got out of the hospital, and I went back to the scene of the accident. I stood there and looked around a while, and it dawned on me what happened. Look how close that pole is to the side of the road. I mean, 10,000 cars go by there and never hit it. I go by and hit it, and I rationalize the pole's too close to the side of the road. I've always been sort of large. I'm 6'2" right now, weigh about 225, 228. I've gone as high as 275 pounds. A lot of guys lose weight and they drink. I blow up like a big frog. Just blow right up. You ever drink so much beer sometime that you can't get no more in you? And you stand there, you got a mouthful of beer, and you don't want to spit it out, and you can't swallow it because, I mean, you're full. But then later on, I got off of that and I got on a whiskey kick. I mean, beer, let's face it, you just got to you got to drink a lot and you got to go to the bathroom a lot. It just ain't worth all that trips. And so what happened was, but I would drink anything. And then when you get fat like that, you know what happens? You get chapped a lot from your skin rubbing together. You get stretch marks on your arms, chapped all the time. And man, it's hot in summer. I didn't have an air-conditioned house, and I get all chapped down and between my legs and all, and I start using alum and cornstarch. And sometimes I get chapped so bad under my arms and sweating and drinking, and between my legs I just go upstairs, lay on the bed, and throw a fan on me and cornstarch on me, and look like a big old whale beached up there somewhere. And just trying to cool down a little bit here. And then when I was drinking, I had bad nerves. I used to bite my fingernails all the time. And then I'd wear them down. I couldn't bite my toenails, but I started picking on my toenails, and next thing they get all ingrown toenails, and they get infected, and you're trying to stand on the beach looking cool with infected toes. You gotta bury your toes in the sand, and just a hell of a mess out there drinking like that. my drinking, I became very responsible. I felt it's cheaper to move than pay rent. Wasn't nothing for me to move 7, 8 times a year. You move out right when the rent's due, so you move. I moved one time. One time I moved twice in 1 week. I lived in the county in a suburban area like this. I got in a lot of trouble with the police department because one night I was in a bar, and these 2 guys were in there saying we got an argument over a shuffleboard game, and they told me they were police officers. I said, "Oh, you guys ain't cops." And they said, "Yes, you are." And they take their wallets, and they take their wallets down, and they flip it open. I said, "I know guys that got those things." Because I heard you go buy these badges in a trade show or somewhere, trading post. Well, a fight breaks out, and they really were police officers. I got locked up for assaulting police officers and resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. A verbal assault, which means I had a filthy mouth. I was saying things to them I shouldn't say to them, and I got a disorderly conduct being booked in jail. I mean, I was just crazy that night, and I got in a lot of trouble. And you don't do that in a small town to a police department. They'll make it so rough on you, you get the hell out of there, I'll be honest. And I moved to Baltimore City. I never lived in a city before my whole life. I never knew what these row houses were. I mean, they all looked at, you talk about an experience. Come home drunk, try to find your house, they all look the same. I mean, you got to go in the wrong house sooner. But I was renting a house in Baltimore City. I was paying like $17 a week for this house. Come home drunk, I looked across the street and I saw a sign in the window. House for rent, $16. I moved across the street to save $1. I do stupid things like that. I'd get my gas and electric cut off, and I'd run an extension cord out my kitchen window and down on the wall and the neighbor's window and let him plug it in and keep a refrigerator and lamp going until I got it turned back going and just pay the difference in his bill. I lived in roach-infested houses. You live in the city, you got a lot of roaches and all, at least in our city you do. And roaches, they get everywhere. They get in your shoes at nighttime. They get under your collar. They get in your clothes. You go to work and you're like this guy. Look, what's the matter? You got one of them under your collar crawling around. He's got to get out of there. And I'm talking to a guy one night. He's looking at me real funny. And I look down and I got one of them sticking his head out of my pocket going like that. I mean, it's a hell way to have to live. I wasn't raised like that. I came from a nice home. Nice home. Just lived crazy. So I moved a lot. I worked on the waterfronts. I got involved with guys running the fence on the waterfront, selling stolen goods. We'd do anything. I worked in a factory. Did some welding. I was a hustler. And we get it. Look, I loved everything about the barroom life. I'll be honest. I was a barroom drinker. I loved the gambling. I liked the fighting, the women, the dancing. Everything about it. To me, that's where you got to be. And I just lived a crazy, wild life. I'm lucky to be alive. Anyway, I ended up coming off of a bad drunk in 1964. I didn't know what to do with myself, and I found myself at a point that I didn't want to live, and I didn't have the courage, like Ernie did, to commit suicide. And I'm driving this car. And for some reason or other, I was attracted to a small church on the side of the highway, and I just felt like I needed to talk to somebody that day. And I went in this church, and I met the minister of the church, and for the first time in my life, I sat down and I talked about what was going on in my world. And he said, let me tell you something. You got a lot of problems, but he said, your biggest problem seems to be your drinking. And you got to do something about that first. I said, yeah, but I got marriage problems, and I got financial problems, and I got a job problem. He said, your biggest problem is your drinking. And I got a member of my congregation who's a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and maybe this man can help you. Now, I didn't know the difference between AA and a hockey puck. Okay? I didn't know nothing. In fact, I didn't know it was 2A's till I got here. I thought it was Alcoholics Anonymous Association, because I had people tell me, you ought to go to 3A's, man. And we called the 3A's, and we kept getting the Automobile Association of America. I didn't know it was 2A's till I got here. So I said, at that time, I didn't know what to do, so I said, I'll do anything. And I found myself going to Alcoholics Anonymous. 23 years of age. Went in, and I didn't know what I was getting involved in. And I'll tell you what's neat about Alcoholics Anonymous. It's got a lot of phonies in AA. They don't throw none of us out. We weed ourselves out of Alcoholics Anonymous. AA says, live and let live. If you ain't sincere, you ain't going to hang around there very long. I found out after I was in AA a short while, you people were real serious about staying sober. And I wasn't. I used AA to get out of a lot of trouble I was in. And I went about the business after coming in AA after a few days, and I went around and told everybody I was in Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, my mother, she got a little tear in the corner of her eye and come down and she was so happy. My kids are happy. My wife says, my God, you're going to come home the same day. The boss said you're not going to come in late and leave her. He's happy. The bill collectors are happy. The landlord's happy. I mean, everybody was excited except for one person. Me. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I don't want to be in AA. I want the benefits, but I don't want to do the work to get it. I still wanted to drink. And so after a while, I would pretend I'm going out to an AA meeting, and I would go bar hopping. And I'd try to drink Coca-Cola. First time I went to a bar to get a Coca-Cola into a nightclub in a honky-tonk where there's a lot of dancing, a lot of women going out there, I snuck in. First thing I look for is Easy Does It bumper stickers in the neighborhood. See? Because I don't want to be caught going into AA. And then I slide in. Sneak up to the bar. I used to just bull my way up to the bar. Sneak up to the bar. Give me a Coca-Cola. And the barmaid says, you want a Coca-Cola? She's telling the whole world. And I feel like AA lights are going off over top of my head. I said, just give me a Coca-Cola. What do you want in it? Nothing. I'm saying, oh man, I got to get out of here. So after coming to AA, because I associated in drinking places with drinking people, doing drinking things, I drank. My sponsor said, if you don't want a haircut, don't hang in a barber shop. If you go on a diet, don't hang in a donut shop. You hang there long enough, you'll eat one. You stay there long enough, you'll get a haircut. And so I drank, because I associated with drinking people, drinking places. I'll tell you what happened when I drank. The same thing that always happens. I got drunk. I always drank to get drunk most of the time. I drank for effect. Want something to happen. Very unpredictable behavior. I'm the kind of guy who will go out for a drink. I remember one night I told my wife I'll be back in a couple hours. I'm going out and get a couple of drinks. I'll be right back. I get out there, I get drinking, and somebody says, hey, what do you say we go down to the ocean? It's a 3-hour drive. I'm married, got a couple of kids. I said, sounds good to me. And away we go. And we're going to party. And we party all night. And the morning, sun's coming up, I'm thinking, damn, I didn't go home. Man, she is going to be mad. You know, I need another drink. So I get me another drink. Then, I start thinking, who the hell is she to tell me when to come home? And then I get thinking, you're already 1 day late. You're going to catch just as much hell for being 2. One time I went out, was gone for 6 weeks. I mean, if you're going to go to jail, make it worthwhile. And that's how crazy I was. Crazy. And so I went back to drinking. And I got drunk after coming to AA. Now, there's a lot of guys come to Alcoholics Anonymous. Sometimes you go to so many meetings, you hear people such as myself who had a slip or went out and drank and got back, you think that you got to go out and do it too. And you don't. You never have to drink again unless you want to. You may dream about it, of getting drunk. You may think about it. You may even talk about it, but you don't have to do it. There's some one-nighters in here, first-nighters, in a room like this. You don't never have to go out and drink again. And so I got drunk, and I came off that drunk, and I didn't know you could come back to AA. I thought once you went out and took a drink, you got like excommunicated out of Alcoholics Anonymous. You can't come back. You blew it. And I called this guy Larry up, and he said, no, you can come back. And so I went back to AA. And you was neat about it, the people that I thought were going to give me a hard time, they put their hand out and they said, welcome back. It's good to see you. Keep coming back. Reminds me a little, like after I finally got sober, my little girl was like 3.5 years of age. And she started the first grade a couple years, 2.5 years later, she started the first grade at school. Went to school, her very first day, she came home. I said, how'd you make out in school today, Dawn? She's not too good, Dad. I got to go back again tomorrow. AA's the same way. We don't make out too good the first day, except we're here, and that's the most important thing you can ever do. The hardest thing you're ever going to do in AA is show up. Keep coming back. And so I went back and I told him how sorry I was I let him down. That he took me to meetings. This guy Larry took me to meetings. How sorry I was to let him down. He said, "Hell, he said, go look in the mirror, and you look at that guy. Come back and look at me, and see who let who down around here." He said, I'm twice your age and I look better than you do tonight. And I feel better than you do tonight. He said, if it looks half as bad inside of you looking out as it does looking in, you got to be in bad shape. You let yourself down when you took a drink. Cut a long story short, I ended up going back and I drank for almost 2 years before I got back to Alcoholics Anonymous. In those 2 years, I found myself hospitalized. One time I found myself moving in, I got in trouble in the city, so I moved to the county again. This time I moved in these abandoned summer homes. People who had a little bit of money in the city would buy a home off the river. We call them shore homes. And in the summertime, they go down and stay in a summer home. Well, they weren't insulated. They were just summer homes. And the kids would get out of school and they'd come down there and spend the summer. Well, when they moved out in the fall, I'd move in. And I'd board the windows up. And we'd use the water till the pipes froze and carry water from a neighbor. And you have to use a bucket for a bathroom because the toilet's frozen. And I lived like that. And I was living in a house one time down there. And after I came to AA and left 6 months later, and I completely flipped out in that house that night, and I went berserk. And I ran my fist through the windows, through the walls. I was 6'2" at that time, maybe like 265, 24 years of age, going crazy. Found myself being held down by my father, my father-in-law, and a police officer or somebody. And I found myself that night in Annapolis General Hospital being sewed up. They were sewing my wrist up, my forehead, where I tried to put it through a concrete porch. It didn't work. And I found myself being sewed up, and these two doctors said, we've got to get this guy out of society because if he doesn't kill himself, he's going to kill somebody else. So I found myself committed to a locked ward of a state mental institution. There's no detoxes around that time. There's no treatment centers. When you went and flipped out from drinking back in those days, they just put you into a nut ward, they call them a Goonie Roost, a funny farm, whatever. They just put you into a mental institution. And that's where I went for about 6 weeks. And they try all kinds of things in there to help us out. It's different today. I mean, one of the things they tried in there, we made them little ceramic ashtrays for therapy, made the little wallets and everything, little baskets. One of the therapies they tried one time, they said, let's try dancing. And they took all the crazy women out of one ward and all those crazy guys out of another ward, and they put us in a room together, and they turned on a record player. They didn't have cassettes then. They put on a little record player, and they said, now let's see you dance. And I'm up there dancing. I'm a good dancer. I dance pretty good. And I got this gal. She looked nice. I asked her if she liked to dance. She said yes. And we're out there dancing around. And my wrists were all taped up and my forehead. She said, you tried to commit suicide, didn't you? I said, nah. She said, yes, you did. I said, no, I never. I said, what are you in here for, hon? She said, I killed my husband. I'm thinking, I got to get me a new damn dance partner right now, man. So we tried all these kind of things, and the day I got out of there, I got drunk. Finally, I got back to Alcoholics Anonymous March 12, 1966, and I had to surrender to win. I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of important things in Alcoholics Anonymous. You can join the group in your neighborhood. You can get either Mr. or Miss AA for a sponsor. You can memorize the 12 steps. You can come to meetings early, and you can stay late. You can do all the things you think you should do, but I'll tell you the most important thing you're ever going to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't drink. Don't drink. They told me if my tail fell off, don't drink. Pick it up, bring it to a meeting, we'll screw it back on you. Don't drink. Stopping drinking is the most important thing you're ever going to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. And sometimes we get caught up in so many little plateaus and different things, we forget about the most important thing as alcoholics. Don't drink. And I've seen times it's easy when it's easy. It's easy to stay sober when it's easy. It's easy having this conference this weekend with beautiful weather, but suppose it rains. It's nice to plan a picnic. Suppose it rains. It's easy to stay sober when it's easy, when everything falls in place. But you don't stay sober a long time without things happening. That's the separator. Can I make it when it gets tough? Can I make it when the crap hits the fan? Can I make it if I make some mistakes? And so I came back, I joined Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got in AA. Got me a sponsor. I got me a sponsor in AA. Sober sponsor. My sponsor spoon-fed me Alcoholics Anonymous. He explained the steps to me. I was at a meeting one night, and someone says, anyone have a question? I do. Well, what's your question, young man? Why me? I don't want to be an alcoholic. Why me? Why don't I have to be an alcoholic? Why not one of my brothers and sisters or somebody? I'd rather be a prize fighter, a lawyer, a doctor, anything but an alcoholic. Why me? Well, it was a small discussion meeting. They went around the table, banged my tail from one end to the other. And they came back and said, well, why not you? I mean, what's so great about you? You can't be an alcoholic. I swear to God, there was a man there. His name was J. Miller, since deceased, died sober. He walked up to me and said, young man, I'm going to show you something. He said, you see this face? And his face was distorted, scarred, had been operated on, gone through a lot of cobalt and radiant treatment. It was cancerous. He said, there's all forms of cancer. You can have cancer, and it can be treated. You can be operated on. You can go through all kind of therapy, and there's a lot of cancers that are not terminal, and you can live a long, productive life if you treat it and take care of it properly. He said, I've got the kind that there's nothing we can do about. He said, this is called cancer, and it's terminal. I'm going to die because of this disease called cancer. He said, you got to have a disease. Thank God it's alcoholism. And thank God there's a place you can go to called Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, I can't do nothing about this. You can do anything you want about your drinking. What do you want to do? So if you got to have a disease, thank God it's alcoholism. And thank God there's a place for us to come to called Alcoholics Anonymous. And I never forgot that. And by joining Alcoholics Anonymous, when I say I joined AA, I said, put my name on this group. I'm going to join this group, put my name on the book. Here's my sobriety date. And I got active in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got active. There's nothing I wouldn't do. No one told me go to 90 meetings in 90 days. They said, go to meetings till we tell you don't go to meetings. 3 years later, they said, you can cut back your meetings. I didn't have a car my first year. I lived in the country when I got sober the last time. They said, you get to a meeting, we'll get you home. I was sober 1 year in AA. Got my license back. I lost my license drinking. Got my license back. Had to pay high-risk insurance for 3 years. Had to go down and play with a psychiatrist on medical advisory board at DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. Play their games, get my license back. And I bought myself an old taxi cab. They took off the streets because it was unsafe. Took the dome off. It was red, white, and blue. It's called GI Taxi Cab in Baltimore City. Took the dome off the top. It was red, white, and blue. Put some spray paint on the door. And I used that to go to meetings for a while. When I was drinking, my ego would not allow me to drive around something like that. Well, you know what was neat about it? I remember taking my little girl downtown one day. It still looked like a taxi cab. I'm riding down through Baltimore City, everybody's going like this. My daughter said, God, Dad, everybody downtown knows you. A lot of good can come out of some weird situations. So I started going to a lot of meetings. I joined a group. I started going to a lot of meetings. I joined Alcoholics Anonymous. I would come early and I would stay late. I would try to talk it out before I would act it out. A says it, action's a magic word. I found there's a difference between a program and a group. This is called a group. It's neat we're all together. We can share with each other. We can help each other and hold hands and touch each other. We can talk about things. But I can't always be with a group. I can't always be with my sponsor. I can't always be plugged into somebody. Sometimes we're out there in the field working or doing something. We need a program. The program's called the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And they would say things to me, how many steps away from a drink do you want to be? 1 step from a drink or 12 steps away from a drink? There's a lot you can put between you and a drink if you want to stay sober. How bad do you want to stay sober? What's it going to take to get sober? I'll tell you what it's going to take to get sober and to stay sober. Everything you got and then some. And a lot of people say, you're stupid to go to all those meetings. They say, we don't go to all those meetings. I'll tell you what, I'm still here and most of them are all gone. There's only one stupid question in Alcoholics Anonymous. That's one you never ask. Don't never be afraid to ask a question in Alcoholics Anonymous. Talk about it. You're going to get as well as your secrets will allow you. Your secrets is going to kill you. Your secret's going to get you drunk. My secrets got me in a lot of trouble sometimes. There's no secrets in my life today, and it feels good. It's easy to stay.
Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for the balance of the message. Thank you. Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for the balance of the message. Thank you. Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for the balance of the message. Thank you. Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for the balance of the message. Thank you. Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for the balance of the message. Thank you. Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for the balance of the message. Thank you. Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for the balance of the message. Thank you. Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for the balance.
Finished up my high school education. Got tired of working down the waterfront. I want to change careers. Told my sponsor, I'm scared to death. He said, what's the worst thing you can do? I said, fail. He said, you never failed before? What do you do when you fail? You pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. I remember one time when I was new in AA, I was going through, I was getting sober, and I was shaking a lot. I can identify Ernie with half a cup of coffee. I shook a lot. Told my sponsor, maybe I could just, some marijuana was just starting to make the scene back in the late 60s. Maybe I could just smoke a little dope or something to calm down. He said, shaking ain't going to kill you. He said, I never heard anyone die and they put on his death certificate, he shook to death. Okay? He said, damn marijuana and booze will kill you, shaking ain't. And you start thinking about drinking, think about shaking. It's easier to stay sober than it is to get sober. I got involved with a lot of people, started working with a lot of drunks. I'm working with 2 drunks right now. But I took the Alcoholics Anonymous 18 years ago. And both of them had about 8.5 years of sobriety. And he didn't do the homework, and he went back to drinking. It took one of them 6 years to get back. He went back out, he couldn't get it, finally got back. It took the other one almost 10 years to get back to Alcoholics Anonymous. And you know what they said the crazy thing about it is? When you've been sober for a while in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you go back to drinking, and you come back to AA, particularly if you had a period of sobriety, when you're out there drinking, you're always thinking, I wish I was in AA sober. And when you come back to AA, it's very painful. You say, God, I wish I was out there drinking. The insanity of it. It's tough for these 2 guys. It's tough to go to a meeting and pick up a beginner's chip from a guy you sponsored, to pick up a beginner's chip, and he's got 15 years of sobriety. Talk about some humility. I'll tell you what I've observed since I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've never seen a guy or gal come to AA and who got sober and had a little bit of sobriety, go out the doors, go out and take a drink, and come back and give me some good news. I don't hear good news. I don't hear nice stories about alcoholics who continue to practice their addiction, who continue to drink. Everyone that do get back, a lot of them don't get back. We read about them. We hear about them. Or we visit them into an institution or into a jail or prison. They all don't get back. But the ones that do get back said, my God, Ernie touched it this afternoon. You think you hit your bottom, take another drink. You ain't seen nothing yet. I don't care how low you're going, take another drink, you can go lower. You ain't dead yet. That's the ultimate. And so I can't think I can go out and take a drink and get back. I can't think that I can go out and get a buzz on and then come back to AA when I feel like it. My problem's not up here. It's down here. I had to get it down to my gut that if I took one drink, I'm going to die. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to die. I'm not going to get high. I'm not going to get a buzz on. I'm not going to get temporary relief. Hey, look, I'm not a sprinter, man. I'm a marathoner. I'm here for the long run. I was talking to these old-timers last weekend down Blackstone. I said, how the hell do you get to be an old-timer in AA? They said, just don't drink and don't die. That's how you become old-timers in AA. And so I don't hear success stories, but I'll tell you what I see. I see success stories in Alcoholics Anonymous. I see people in AA that, the rest of the world gave up on. A friend of mine said, when you're too damn lousy for the rest of the world, you're just right for us. Come on in. I went to a meeting one night and had a saying on the wall, we're all here because we ain't all there. I saw the same thing in a mental institution when I was down there. And we're all here because we ain't all there. We were talking about at dinner, the old saying, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. The hell you can't. We're doing it in AA. But it's the simple things I grabbed hold of. I didn't know it was the first drink that got me drunk until I came to AA. Swear to God, I thought it was 17th drunk or the third six-pack or the second fifth. Some magic number. And when I was drinking mixed drinks, I'd come home with a pocket full of straws and figure out which straw it was, which drink it was, where I sort of lost control. I was in a meeting one night, and the guy said, the first drink that got you drunk, got me drunk. I hit my sponsor and said, was he a sissy? Man, it took me a lot of booze. I'll tell you, for you beer drinkers, I'll tell you what, there may be exception to the rule, but I don't. They have a typical good beer drinker. He sit down and drink a case and have 2 cases of beer. A good comparison is, I want to ask you a question. You ever sit down and drink a case and have 2 cases of Pepsi Cola at one time? Never. And so anyway, I would ask these questions and all, and about the amounts that I would drink and all. And I just lost my little train of thought. It ain't happened in a long time. That's okay. Anyway, I came back and I got involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got active. I joined the group. Started going to a lot of meetings. I got involved working with a lot of new people, and I tell you what, I guarantee you I worked with 100, my first 3 years in AA, I guarantee you I must have worked with 100 new young drunks. And on my 3rd anniversary, wasn't a damn one of them sober. But I was. And I found out what the problem was, is I was trying to get them sober through the grace of Stu, instead of letting them get sober through the grace of God. I'm going to fix these guys. I'm going to make them sober. Anybody gets sober through the grace of God, not through the grace of any of us. God uses us as an instrument to touch other people's lives. They say when a pupil is ready, a teacher will appear. And I've had many, many teachers come into my lifetime, and that's helped me. So after being sober in AA for a while, I got involved, I got active. I got my license back. I decided I want to move out of my neighborhood and buy myself a nice house. And I started saving my money, worked, bought a nice house, and I worked my way up. And I was touching on something when I was sober about, I guess, 14 years. I went through a lot of crazy changes. And I don't know whether people talk about a midlife or what it was, but when I turned 40, I just went crazy. I was in AA, I was traveling around, speaking a lot in AA, very involved, very active. My wife and I speaking as a couple, and etc. And I don't know whether it's getting old or what the hell was happening, but the next thing I grew long hair, lost a lot of weight, bought me a fire engine red car with a T-top on it, got me some new clothes, and the next thing I needed to compliment all that was a young woman. And I got involved with a young lady in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I made a fool out of myself. Embarrassed my family and caused a lot of problems in that family. A lot of embarrassing. And it just sort of like happened fast and then it died out fast. But I created a lot of damage that could never be repaired with my behavior. I heard a long time ago, when romance begins, therapy ends. And it was a cardinal rule that I just thought I'd never do, would never happen to me, and yet I did. I got involved with a young lady in Alcoholics Anonymous, and my pretense was to try to help her. And it was all ego. I'm turning 40 years of age. A lot of young guys are kidding me about, hey, you ain't got it anymore, old man. And I say, man, wait till I walk into a young girl in my arm. And I made a big fool out of myself. Caused a lot of problems in that marriage. That was irreparable. And we separated for a few days, and not even quite a week, and went back together and put that thing to sleep and got back to the point of trying to put it back together, and we could never get it back together. It never came back together. And we'd been married at that time almost 22 years. 20 years. And I'm going to share that story because it might be one drunk in here. See, a lot of times people will go and they only tell the good things about their life. They don't want to share nothing where they screwed up because they may not get invited to speak anywhere again. I really don't care. I really don't care. I've stayed sober, and I can stay sober no matter what. Coming speaking at a conference isn't what got me sober. It won't keep me sober. It's the action of getting involved in Alcoholics Anonymous that's going to keep me sober. And I can come and listen. God gave me 2 ears, 1 mouth. I'm supposed to listen twice as much as I talk anyway. Otherwise, He would have given me 1 big ear and 2 mouths to speak out of. So anyway, I got involved in this situation, and we tried to get it back together, and it would never come together. We moved. We tried the geographical change. We took some counseling. And I lost my commitment. I could never get the commitment back. I could never forgive myself. I thought myself, because I did this, I was a lousy person. Girl, my home group says, I may not be perfect, but there are parts of me that are excellent. And I needed to hear things like that. Your friends will scatter and leave you. Your true friends will stick by you. They know and they can live what is called unconditional love. I quit speaking in Alcoholics Anonymous at different conventions and circuits. I got back to being actively involved in AA. started working back in the program, got involved in general service, and et cetera, and I just got in the trenches and did what I was supposed to do. And we worked on that thing for about 10 years, and it wouldn't come back together. 3 years ago, we even bought a house. 3.5 years ago, a new home into a neighborhood that when I was a punk drunk, young man, I wore jeans, a leather jacket, had a DA haircut, punk. And we had an area that I used to go into called Old Verna Park, and they spelled it O-L-D-E. It's where the money was. And we used to go in there and beat up all these little rich kids. They had little white buck shoes on, and they had little pants with buckles on the back and little button-down collars, and went to preppy schools, and the father and them had nice cars. And we used to go and beat them up and run out and make fun of them. We were jealous of their parents and everything. Well, through a set of situations and getting sober, getting involved, making money, doing a lot of things, I ended up in a situation. I bought a house in that neighborhood. I moved in that neighborhood. You talk about making a big, profound change. I moved in this neighborhood, and we were living in there a short time. I remember one night we were in there about a week or two, and Nancy said, let's go down to a restaurant. We went down to this nice restaurant in this neighborhood, and we're sitting there eating, and we're looking around, and I'm starting to smile and laugh. She said, what's so funny? I said, I robbed this place one night. And we went and we got a newspaper, and I laughed. I said, I robbed that drugstore too one time. I got involved with some guys. We'd got involved in a series of robberies, and thank God we never got caught. The 12 steps will help you deal with all these things. Anyway, we just tried to put it together. We couldn't get it back together. And through the support of both of our kids, we separated like 2.5 years ago. We're still both young enough to get a life going here. And we talked it out. We got a verbal agreement. We got a lawyer friend of ours write us down a volunteer separation. We made a good deal with the furniture. Had a lot of nice furniture. We accumulated over 20-some years. She said, we'll throw it all in there. What stays you can keep, what comes down, I get. The old story, she got the inside, I got the outside. Well, we finally finalized that divorce and everything else, and I ended up buying the house back from her and gave her some money. She bought a townhouse, and she's still going to Al-Anon, and she's got herself a new job and a new car and a new friend, and her life's going well, and I just hope and pray she stays in Al-Anon. I'll tell you what, I love Alcoholics Anonymous, but next to Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon is the most important 12-step program I know in this world. My big book tells me if you're working with a drunk and he doesn't respond, try to help the family. If there's no Al-Anon, where in the hell are you going to put them or take them or send them? So I still love Al-Anon. And it's been very, very helpful to her. So I had to go through that. We got a lot of support from both of our children. My daughter and my grandson's living with me, and she's out moving, and she's doing fine. So I need to share that and get it off. It's the first time I really have talked about it. I don't know how it's going to come out. I've spoken to some other places in the last year or so, but it hasn't really came out. But what I did when I went through difficult times for me, no matter what they are, 10 years ago they thought I had cancer. I had a tumor in my chest. And it kept growing. And I told all my friends at Alcoholics Anonymous about it. I went to a doctor. He said, we're 99% sure it's cancerous, and we're going to have to operate on you. And if it's malignant, we're going to have to remove your ribs, lymph glands, and etc. And I didn't pray I didn't have cancer. I said, God, give me the grace to accept whatever I do have. And I could not believe the love and support I got from Alcoholics Anonymous. The fellowship that is there, that is so important. I can't believe the love and support I've gotten from members of Alcoholics Anonymous, my home group. She's gotten from her home group in Al-Anon through this whole messy situation. It's put up a lot of our friends in a situation. They don't know what to do. They don't know which side. A lot of them are not surprised. They're surprised it lasted this long. But you can go through difficult times and stay sober. And what I did was I dove in Alcoholics Anonymous with both feet. I increased my meetings. I wasn't now going to 7 meetings a week. I started going to 10 and 12 meetings a week. I got some new people, started working with them. I got involved in general service. I didn't go out and speak for a year and a half in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. I dove in AA, made a commitment. It's easy when it's easy. Sometimes it's going to be painful in recovery, but you can make it. You can do it. Let someone know you're hurting. Don't go out and take a drink and then call someone up and say you've been hurting. We can still masquerade in sobriety and recovery. It's still an inside job, recovery is, but let someone know what's going on. You know what? To get sober, something's got to click. And it might be the thing has clicked in you for you to get sober, may never click again. This may be your last chance to get sober. You blow it now because you didn't talk about it. You may never get back. So it's important to talk about it. Maybe I had to come almost 3,000 miles to talk about it. But it's going to do me good. First time I ever chaired a meeting, my sponsor was there. And he said, "What do you think about your meeting?" I said, "I think I really helped them." He said, "That ain't why you do it, dummy. You speak to help yourself. Anything you do it to help yourself. If someone else gets the benefit from it, then that's fine. You make a 12-step call to go out and carry a message to a drunk. You're going out to help him, but you're doing it for you. But for the grace of God, it could be you out there someone's 12-stepping. We're sober through the grace of God. I don't have it made. I'm on the board of trustees at a Blackstone retreat in Virginia. I had a man on my board with 27 years and 8 months of sobriety got drunk. I've seen people with 30 years of sobriety get drunk. We don't have it made. We've got to make so far today. That's what we're talking about today. I'm in recovery today. I've got a disease that needs to be treated on a daily basis. My disease doesn't go on vacation. My disease doesn't sit on a shelf and just come out on Tuesday and Thursday night at my local group. My home group is the Verna Park Early Birds group. It's the finest group in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a group right in my neighborhood where I live. I've been a member of that group since we moved in a community. That group has been so supportive. And they don't come up and give me a lot of hassle. Sometimes people come up to you when you're going through a difficult time. Just some of them are being very kind, very supportive, and some are being very nosy. You can get a sixth sense about these things. Someone would come up and say, "How's Nancy doing?" I'd say 544-5546. Call her up and ask her. And smile at them and look them in the eye. And don't say a word. So coming in AA, it's been very exciting for me. I love being sober. No one said we had to be perfect. The hardest thing I've ever had to do in Alcoholics Anonymous in my recovery is to learn how to forgive myself for some things I've done before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and after I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. But my sponsor told me that, my power is bigger than any of us. He forgave me a long time ago. He said, "When are you going to learn to forgive yourself?" It's taken a while to forgive myself to the point I can now talk about it. See, I'm not out in Oregon, soliciting for votes to run for Congress or anything like that. I'm out here sharing with you because I'm a drunk. And I need to stay sober. Maybe someone had to hear what I had to share tonight. I've already heard something I needed to hear this weekend at this conference. I've had people come into my lives when I've gone through difficult times. I've had financial problems since I've been sober. Try this one for size. 14 years sober. Real estate market's terrible. Interest rates are 18%. I get into real estate. You know why? Thinking, which is dangerous for a drunk. By the time I get my license and get everything ironed out and get some experience, this market's going to break and I'm going to make a lot of money. The only thing went broke was me. A friend of mine said, "You're a Bramwell goose." I said, "A Bramwell goose?" He said, "You ever see a flock of geese in the fall and a big V and they're flying south and one dumb goose going north? And in the fall they're like going north and one's going south?" He said, "That's a Bramwell goose." Everybody got out of real estate and you got in it. And I went broke. It's tough being broke, me, sober. You look around, you're 14 years sober and you ain't got no money. And all your friends are doing very well. You got to go speak on the other side of Baltimore City. It costs you $1 to go through the tunnel and you don't have a buck. You got to ride through the city. You go shopping, you look at the steaks you used to buy and say, "Well, I think I'll go get some liver and some chicken." So I've been down through these financial things. I've been through those situations. That time I was telling you about going in and they thought I had cancer. I got supported by Alcoholics Anonymous like you wouldn't believe. And when the day of the operation came, my room was full of people. You're only supposed to have 2 visitors. I just happened to luck it out that no one else was in the room with me. The room was full of people. And we all said, "Let's pray about it." Now, we're not all wrapped up in a religion or a cult or anything. We just prayed about it. We go down and get the operation. The doctor says, "I'll tell you what, when you come out of the recovery room," he says, "you can lift your arm up." It was benign. If you can't lift your arm up, we've had to take your lymph glands and ribs out, and we've had to take your arm down. I remember coming out, and I could put my arm up. Upstairs, he comes out through the elevator, comes out in the waiting room, Tells all my friends, he said, I can't believe it. Last thing we want to do was cut on him. He said, that tumor it wasn't malignant. A friend of mine says, power of prayer. Doctor said, well, I don't know about that. He said, hell yeah. He said, you give us 2 more days, you wouldn't have had a cut on him. And I believe those kind of things. We didn't pray I didn't have cancer. God give us the grace to accept whatever happens here. And I've learned to use that as a model to go through. And so I'm living a new single life. I'm excited. I'm going to wrap it up with one last little story. We can learn from everybody. You don't have to learn from people just in front of you who came in before you did. I'm sponsoring a new guy. The guy's name is Bill. Dorn. He doesn't know I'm using his name. And I'm taking this guy to meetings. He said, what are you doing for fun? He said, you're separated. You ain't let your fences down yet. He said, all I see you doing is you're working, and you're working with drunks. I'm a coordinator for a treatment center. I do outreach marketing. I don't counsel or anything. I just help people get treatment out of state from my area. And I go to AA, and I work with drunks in AA. He said, I don't see you having any fun. What are you doing for entertainment? What are you doing for, you don't have a hobby or a sport? He said, oh, working in a place will make it. He said, where's the balance you talked to me about? What are you going to do for fun? Now, this is a new guy I'm supposed to be working with. We can learn from anybody and everybody. So I'll tell you what I did. I got involved with this guy. I said, what do you do for a living? He says, I buy and sell antique postcards. I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, you ain't going to make no money. He said, I've been doing it for 21 years. I live in a bigger house than you do. I got a better car than you do. And I don't answer to a beeper. He said, why don't you try it? Just go with me and look for a couple cards. And he gave me a couple cards to go out and look for, and I went out, and bingo, I found them. All my life, I've got the thrill of a chase. I'm being honest. I got excited when I would chase after a woman, chase after a commission, a job, a position, always looking for something to chase after. When I got it, now I don't know what to do with it. I need something new to chase. I got caught up with these little antique postcards. Little penny postcards go back to like 1895, 1996, on up to early 1900s. I got excited. I got the thrill of the chase looking for these little cards. Now, we're compulsive in nature. I got 36,000 cards. To the point I got to get rid of some, so I'm starting to do some shows. And I'm starting to make some money. Now, I had no idea I'm going to do this. I came here for the weekend. I'm riding down through. I pick them up out of antique shops, flea markets, things like this. And my eyes are like radar, looking around for antique shops, flea markets. Went out, ran a little car this morning. Went out, bought about 200 cards. I'm leaving here Sunday morning because I'm supposed to do an antique show in Massachusetts on Monday morning at 6 o'clock. It opens. So I'm going to leave here. I'm going to miss the Sunday morning meeting. I got to leave here like 7:30 so I can get home by 8:30 at night. Pick up my car and drive through the night to get to Massachusetts, 6 o'clock in the morning, to set up and do my show. Those things excite me. I still live. I'll put it this way. I see some guy get sober, and they found a lot of easy does it. I still get excited being sober. I'm enthusiastic about life. I love being sober. I love the challenge of the chase after going involved with my job or something of that nature. I'm an action guy. I never have learned how to sit down and really smell the roses. Maybe someday I will. When I get old, I'll do that. But I'm having a lot of fun. Coming out here has been very good for me. Chance to meet some old friends and meet some new friends. Come out here and find out why God sent me out here today and tonight. And I'm sure it's because someone out there has got to touch me and share something with me that's going to help me to stay sober one more day down the road. I want to thank you very much for being very patient with me and for allowing me to have the privilege to come here and share with you. And God bless you very much.